And we're going to explore, if you would, with us today, the identity of a very strange name and the development of the history of religion, in a way that many of us have never understood it before. There's the name, Zoroaster. You look and say, who is that? What is Zoroaster? Let me put it this way. You would not have a Christian religion if it wasn't for Zoroaster. You would not have a Jewish religion if it wasn't for Zoroaster. You would not have a religious tradition if it wasn't for Zoroaster. And when you begin to understand that, then it serves well to stop for just a moment and take a look and say, who is this? There's a professor by the name of Edward Mayer, and he termed Zoroaster thusly: the first personality to have worked creatively, and formatively upon the course of religious history. Now, when you think of Zoroaster, understand him as a prophet, as a Christ, a messenger of God. But the God that he was the messenger for is one that you've never heard before. The name is Ahura Mazda. Ahura Mazda. That's the name of God. Okay. Through every religion, through Christianity, through every nationality, the words, the teachings of Zoroaster pervade. Everywhere. Hebrew, Greek, Latin. Let me show you something. The religions of India said, the world is the way it is. You can know it, but you can't change it. And for many of us, that's the way it's always been. That's the way it is. What am I going to do about it? What can I do? Can't do anything. I'm stuck in it. Zoroaster said, the world was corrupt, not by nature, but by accident, and the world is to be reformed by human wisdom. In other words, there is something you can do about it. You can sit, and you can go to church, and you can read Bibles, and you'll get old, and you'll die, and you've done nothing. Or you can understand and start to develop that which is the human wisdom which comes from the right side, and things can change. And it's up to you. In other words, Zoroaster said, there is a mystical power in you that can be used to change the world for the better. You want to stop the hurricanes? You want to stop the earthquakes? You want to stop all the storms that are so destructive? Everybody start thinking positively and start flowing in harmony with nature. It'll stop. And it's up to you. Zoroaster's date is kind of placed with a little bit of ambiguity, but somewhere 1,000 to 3,000 years before Jesus Christ. 1,000 to 3,000 years before Jesus Christ, there was a voice that spoke, and he spoke from Persia, which you now know as Iran. He spoke from Iran, and he impacted totally your life. And the thing is, you've gone to church all of your life, and you haven't the slightest idea who he is. Nobody ever told you about him. No preacher ever told you about him. No rabbi ever told you about him. No evangelist has ever told you about him. You went to the New Age, and you got rocks, and you got smoke, and you got feathers, but you don't know anything about him. Nobody ever told you about him. Now you sit here and say, who is this? He was the first voice that spoke out of the deserts of Iran and said that the struggle that is inherent in life is the struggle between light and darkness. Nobody said it before him. Many have said it after him. It's quoted in the Bible all the time. And you'll see people get up and stand and they'll say, well, this is a struggle between light and darkness, never knowing that this originated from Zoroaster, the Persian prince, Zoroaster, the prince of Iran, Zoroaster, the prince of Ahura Mazda. And what he said was, light pervaded, but then lies and deception came. Lies and deception came. Zoroaster was a living symbol of the truth. He thought according to the law. He spoke according to the law. He was the holiest in holiness above all the living world, the best ruling and exercising who the brightest in brightness was, the most glorious in glory, the most victorious in victory. And it says, at his sight, demons fled. That's what it was said about Zoroaster. At his sight, demons fled. The birth of Zoroaster marked the opening of the final 3,000 years of what they call the 12,000 years of the world. It's a time when the Messiah appears to culminate the victory over the lies and to establish the kingdom on earth. When does this happen? As you're sitting here now, you're in the age of Aquarius. Okay? It says in the scriptures, and it says in the same scriptures of Zoroaster, that at the time that the blood reaches the horse's neck, there is 1,000 years of peace. What that means is in the age of Aquarius, when the sun reaches that which is the neck of Pegasus, then all of this peace comes for 1,000 years. That was the teachings of Zoroaster. That was the teachings of Jesus Christ. Go to page 1014 in the Bible. Look at Revelation chapter 20. 1014. Revelation chapter 20. And look at verse 6. Blessed is holy is he that has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ and shall reign with him 1,000 years. That was the teachings of Zoroaster. That's the teachings of your Bible. The reason that it is in your Bible is because it originated with Zoroaster. That there would be a change. Something was going to happen. And it was going to happen during the age of Aquarius, and it was going to happen when the energy of the sun touched the neck of Pegasus. Then there was going to be a change in the way you think. That's why you're sitting in here. That's why you're sitting here. That's why you're listening to me. That's why we share with one another. That's why the thoughts that come into your mind now you're not thinking the way you used to think. You're not reading the way you used to. You look at this Bible. You know what? Have you spent your whole life reading this Bible? Literally. You've spent your whole life reading this Bible literally. You believe the words that you saw in the Bible, not knowing that these words are symbolic and they're not supposed to be read literally. And so you made up all of these stories, and then you had preachers make up stories, and you got stories of fish swallowing people. There is a story in here of a fish swallowing a man. He stays in the intestines of the fish 3 days. The fish pukes. The evangelist pops out, and you bought it. You say, yeah, this is it. This is my faith. My faith is built on this. You got two English people named Adam and Eve running around in a garden somewhere with no clothes on. A snake comes, gives her an apple, she eats it, and the whole thing goes down the drain. And this is the foundation of your religion, and you wonder why everything's screwed up. And so then people come, and they come into church, and does anybody question it? Does anybody stand up and say, hey, tell me, is this what you believe? I mean, is this true? Nobody says what you like. You're looking at me. Ain't none of me. All right, pass the plate, pass the hat. Come up, sign the card. You'll go to heaven. Because all that you've ever expected out of this thing was misery until finally you dropped dead and went to heaven. And you showed up because maybe there is such a place. Not knowing that you were supposed to create the heaven here on this earth by changing it, by making a change. Here's a man that came 4,000 years ago and spoke of this change that could be made by you. And you know what? Not one of your preachers, not one of your pastors ever mentioned his name. You had no idea. If some guy wrote an obscure symphony somewhere, so all sorts of Zarathustra, you don't even know, never even heard of it. It's not interesting to you. It's not there was anything. Jesus Christ never said anything new. His name wasn't even Jeheshua. Never said anything new. Everything he said came from somebody else. And the person that said it before him got it from somebody else. And it all traces itself back, and you can trace it back to the very, very beginning, whenever the big burp happened and all of this stuff started coming down all over the earth. Here's the answer. This is what you do. This is what you do. And so what do? The thing that is apparent is that all of the aspects of Christianity are the same aspects that came from Zoroaster 1,000 to 2,000 years before Jesus was born. What I'm saying to you is everything that you'll find in the Bible attributed to Jesus Christ originated with this strange voice that came out of Iran 1,000 to 2,000 years before Jesus was born. The influences of this prophet and Ahura Mazda are mind-boggling when you consider the impact that they had on the Judeo-Christian ethic, directly related